The Story of Civilization, Part 2, The Life of Greece, being a history of Greek civilization from the beginnings, and of civilization in the Near East, from the death of Alexander to the Roman conquest, with an introduction on the prehistoric culture of Crete by Durant. Chapter 20, Letters and Arts in the 4th Century, Section 3, Xenophon. The influence of the old man eloquent upon the statesmen of his time is open to doubt, but his influence upon letters was immediate and enduring. Cicero, Milton, Massillon, Jeremy Taylor, and Edmund Burke formed their prose style upon the balanced clauses and long periods of Isocrates. It was felt first by the historians. Xenophon and others imitated his sketch of Epigoras, the enlightened dictator, who had imported Greek culture into Cyprus in 10 to 387 BCE, and biography became a popular form of Greek literature, culminating in the gossipy masterpieces of Plutarch. To one of his pupils, Ephorus of Cumae, Isocrates committed the task of writing a general history of Greece, a record not of any one state, but of Greece as a whole. Ephorus carried out the assignment so well that his contemporaries ranked his universal history with the books of Herodotus. To another pupil, Theopompus of Chios, Isocrates committed the field of recent events. Theopompus covered it in his Hellenica and Philippica, lively and rhetorical works highly praised by his contemporaries about 340 BCE. Dicarchus of Messana wrote a history of Greek civilization under the title of Theos Herodos, the life of Greece, so ancient as our present enterprise, even by chance, to its name. The only one of the 4th century historians who has survived is Xenophon. Diogenes Laertius describes him in his youth. Xenophon was a man of great modesty and as handsome as can be imagined. They say that Socrates met him in the narrow lane and put his stick across it, and prevented him from passing by, axing where all kinds of necessary things were sold. And when Xenophon had answered him, he axed again, where men were made good and virtuous. And as Xenophon did not know, Socrates said, "Follow me then and learn." And from that time forth, Xenophon became a follower of Socrates. He was among the more practical of Socrates' students. He liked his master's fascinating sleight of mind and loved him as a philosophic saint, but he enjoyed action as well as thought, and became a soldier of fortune, while some other scholars, as Aristophanes disdainfully put it, were measuring the air. About the age of 30, he took service under the younger Carus, fought at Cnaxa, and led the 10,000 to safety. At Byzantium, he joined the Spartans in the war against Persia, captured a wealthy Meda, accepted a rich ransom for him, and lived on it for the rest of his life. He became a friend and admirer of the Spartan king Agesilaus, and made him the subject of a worshipful biography. Returning to Greece with Agesilaus, after Athens had declared war upon Sparta, he chose to be loyal to him rather than to his city, whereupon Athens decreed him an exile and confiscated his property. He fought on the side of the Lacedaemonians at Crania and received as reward an estate at Scylas in Elis, and then under Spartan domination. There he spent 20 years as a country gentleman, farming, hunting, writing, and bringing up his son sternly on the Spartan plan. To his banishment, we owe the varied works that lifted him to the front rank among the authors of his time. He wrote as his mood inclined him about breaking in dogs, managing horses, training a wife, educating princes, fighting with Agesilaus, or raising revenues for Athens. In the Anabasis, with the fresh style of one who had seen or done the things he described, he told the thrilling but quite uncorroborated story of the 10,000's long trek to the sea. In the Hellenica, he took up the history of Greece where Thucydides had left off and brought it down to the battle of Antoneia, in which his own son, Grolus, died fighting bravely after slaying Epaminondas. The book is a dreary chronicle in which history is conceived as an endless chain of battles, a vain, logic-chopping alternation of victory and defeat. The style is lively, the character sketches are vivid, but the facts are judiciously chosen to prove the superiority of Spartan ways. Superstition, which disappeared from history in Thucydides, returns with Xenophon, and supernatural agency is invoked to explain the trajectory of events. With like simplicity or duplicity, the memorabilia transforms Socrates into a monster of perfection, orthodox in religion and ethics, in genderless love, in everything except that scorn for democracy which practically endeared him to the banished. Laconizing Xenophon, still more unreliable, is the banquet, which reports conversations alleged to have occurred when Xenophon was a child. And in a way, our souls are beyond gender, and so might be our minds. So, that's part of the importance of that. In the Laconomicus, however, Xenophon speaks in his own right and with such frank conservatism that we are charmed despite ourselves. Acts for instruction in agriculture, Socrates modestly confesses his ignorance, but recalls the advice and example of the rich landowner Ischomachus. The latter voices the knightly Xenophon's disdain for any occupation except husbandry and war. He expounds not only the secrets of successful tillage, but the art of managing one's property and one's wife. In pages that for a moment rival the grace of Plata, Ischomachus tells how he taught his bride, only half his age, the business of caring for the home, keeping all things in place, governing her servants with kindness but without familiarity, and building a good name for herself, not through artificial beauty but through a faithful performance of her obligations as wife, mother, and friend. In the view of Ischomachus, Xenophon, marriage is an economic as well as a physical association, and decays when the silent partner does all the work. Perhaps the readiness with which the young bride accepts all this is merely the devout wish of a general who won no victories on the domestic battlefield, but we should be willing to believe everything in the account except the tale of how Ischomachus, with but a moment's reasoning, persuaded his wife to abandon powder and rue. Having expounded the art of marriage. Now, some women do give up makeup, at least outside the home, Having expounded the art of marriage, Xenophon describes in the Chiropadia, i.e. the education of Cyrus, Cyrus the Great, Kurash, what is his name in Persian? Kurash. Just like Darius is Dariavaush. His ideals of schooling and government, as if in answer to Plato's Republic, cleverly adapting fictitious biography to the uses of philosophy, he gives an imaginary account of training, career, and administration of Cyrus the Great. He makes the story dramatically personal, enlivens it with the dialogue, he decorates it with the oldest romantic love story in extant literature. He almost ignores cultural education and concentrates upon making the boy a healthy, able, and honorable man. The youth learns the virile sports, the arts of war, the habit of silent obedience, and finally the capacity for effective and persuasive command over subordinates. The best government, Xenophon thinks, is an enlightened monarchy supported and checked by an aristocracy devoted to agricultural and military pursuits. He admires the laws of Persia for rewarding good as well as punishing evil. He points out to the individualistic Greeks, from the example of Persia, the possibility of uniting many cities and states in an empire enjoying internal order and peace. Xenophon began, like Philip, with a vision of conquest. He ends, like Alexander, captivated by the people whom he thought to conquer. He is a masterly storyteller, but a middling philosopher. He is an amateur in everything but war. He considers 100 subjects, but always from the viewpoint of a general. He exaggerates the virtues of order and has not a word to say for liberty. We may judge from this how far disorder had gone in Athens. If antiquity ranked him with Herodotus and Thucydides, it must have been because of his style, the fresh charm of its Attic purity, the harmonious flow of a prose that Cicero called sweeter than honey. Is it Cicero? Cicero? What language is... I forget. The human touch is a personality, the transparent simplicity of language that allows the reader to see through the clear medium the thought or subject in hand. Xenophon and Plato stand to Thucydides and Socrates in the same relation as Apelles and Praxiteles to Polygnotus and Phidias, the culmination of artistry and grace after an age of creative originality and power. I'm not seeing it, but a couple of these videos, it sound like something moved closer to me. Maybe we'll get video of whichever animal it is in the next program.